right. Well, the November meeting of the Charlottesville PCOB is then called to order. The first order of business is announcements, some of which we probably should repeat for everyone. The first, as most people know, Nancy Carpenter is moving away and has resigned from the board, and so that leaves an opening. And as far as the executive director search is concerned, the job announcement has been posted on both the city website and the NACOL job openings website. Anyone have anything else for the good of the community? Okay, approval of minutes. That will be easy because there aren't any. This is one of the things that fell through the cracks as we attempt to adjust to life after console. So the next order of business then, and so what that means is that you'll have two minutes to approve at our next meeting in December. The next order of business is the approval of the agenda. Does anyone have any comments, suggestions, edits that they would like to make? Is there a move to approve?
Make a motion.
Move. Go ahead.
Second.
Mr. Brown?
Yes.
Mr. Cooper?
Yes.
Mr. Frazier?
Yes.
Board votes yes. So the agenda is approved as it was originally in its original form. And now the next item on the agenda is for public comments. I know we have two individuals who are attending. Remy, could you please, Mr. Trail, could you please see if there are any comments?
Yes, if you'd like to speak at this time, click the raise hand icon, or if you're joining us via telephone, you can press *9. Each speaker will be given 3 minutes. Mr. Chair, we have no hands raised at this time.
Okay. And there will be another comment period at the end. So there'll be another opportunity. The next item of business on the agenda is the status of complaints and review requests. Ordinarily, we would have the executive director's report here, but we're still adjusting to life without an executive director. We haven't got things perfect, but again, Deputy City Manager Marshall and City Manager have been very helpful as we make the transition here. In terms of complaints and review requests, the neutral evaluation report related to Mr. Fogel's complaint and Mr. Fogel's response have been posted on the PCOB website. And this basically closes the board's involvement with that complaint. The documents are posted on the documents section of the website. We have two outstanding review requests which have been outstanding since our last meeting. The complainants have been notified that we're kind of stuck until we get a new executive director. This is an unsatisfactory state of affairs, but it would be very hard to appoint to have someone be an interim, and so I think we're kind of stuck with this, assuming that the executive director search goes expeditiously. We have one complaint that was made on our portal an individual reported that a Charlottesville Police Department vehicle followed him along the street and into a parking lot and then drove away. That complaint has been referred to the police department. I've emailed the complainant as well, again explaining that for the time being we cannot do independent investigations, and that obviously this is frustrating. But one of the reasons why we're working on the operating procedures. I have requested from the Internal Affairs Department a summary of the number of complaints they've received and the number of closure letters that they've issued. I have not heard anything from them. I've gone up the chain to the chief, the interim chief, and to Ashley, and so hopefully we'll get that information shortly. Any questions, comments at this point?
Yes, Mr. Chair. Is it is there a clear delineation with regard to the neutral valuation, that the neutral valuation was solely the executive director and not the board itself?
Ms. Marshall and Ms. Robinson and Ms. O'Barry have asked me precisely the same question. And the answer is that it would have been much better if we had gotten a chance to review it, but we did not.
Well,
yeah.
Sure. I think it needs to be made clear that that is solely a report of the executive director and not of the board itself. I know, speaking specifically for me, it does not align with the knowledge that I had gained from things. So I'm speaking specifically for me.
No, and I understand that, and I think it is regrettable that it went out without in a hurry. And I think that was really the bottom line as to what happened, because Mr. Aguilar had other things on his mind at the time, and I think that in the future, currently there is no plan in the operating procedures to have that as a way to go in future cases. So
sure.
And your concern is shared. I agree.
Understood.
Anything else related to complaints? Okay, now one of the things, the next item is it's listed as review of policies and procedures, and I'll let Bellamy talk about that in a moment. Basically, what I have been trying to do over the last month or so is to ask people to take on specific tasks related to the board's authorities to retain momentum while we don't have an executive director, and to basically affirm that we are can still review, for example, review policies, procedures, and have town halls and so on. And Mr. Cooper, you're next. I got some. I have a suggestion for something that might interest you, but for the time being, Mr. Brown, do you want to speak a little bit about the policy?
Sure. So there's, I guess there's some concern with regard to the bias-based policing policy, in particular the language within the definition. That the detention, interdiction, or other disparate treatment of any person on the sole basis of their racial, ethnic status or characteristics, and the historical context within Charlottesville from 2019 to 2021, or or to present, 2019 to present. There have been 14 allegations, and all 14 of them have well, 0 for 14 of them have been sustained, and there is concern that the definition in and of itself is limiting, in addition to some of the historical context of policing stops. So at this point, it's a preliminary evaluation, doing some due diligence with expectation of a recommendation to the board for the board to consider in December. But that is the bias-based review of the bias-based policing policy has been what I've been tasked with.
And I appreciate your taking on that task. I think it's pretty important that we affirm our right to to look at general orders and to make policy recommendations, even if we don't have an executive director. Yeah, and I'm sure, as we have discussed, what we're going to, what we're going to come up with is, sample language from other jurisdictions that probably fills the bill a little bit better, and so we can make constructive suggestions as we go forward.
Mr. Brown, any takeaways from your review?
I mean, right now it's still, there's nothing concrete at this point. I'd like to, give, a full, review of everything that's out there. So I don't want to, just put something out there preliminarily, especially in the public setting,
Okay.
in that. But we'll look to December as having everything completed and concrete, and, some suggestions or recommendations from there.
Great, thank you.
Thank you. Mr. Frazier, now we come to the next item on the agenda, which is the town hall meeting, which you have very graciously accepted the challenge of planning. Go to it.
Has this document been shared with Mr. Cooper and Mr. Brown, Mr. Chair?
No, I have forgotten to do that. I can send it out.
No, I just wanted to know if they'd had a chance to look at it, because I'm just going to go through it quickly, and then if you would share it with them and other interested parties. I don't know if we would consider posting it just for further input. I mean, I'm open. It's not written in stone. It's a first draft of a proposal, and I'm open to any reasonable revisions that folks recommend, given the unique nature of our mission. But anyway, the goal that I established for this was in the interest of increasing community awareness in support of the PCOB. It is proposed that the PCOB offer a community town hall meeting at a time and place to be determined to introduce PCOB to the community, seek community input, and answer any questions about PCOB. So that sort of sums up the intention, but I would just make it take it one step further, which I didn't say in there, which is just kind of raise the visibility of our group, and put us out more in front of folks to know that we're there. I mean, I'm still running into folks that don't really know what we do or who we are, and I just think we need to do a little better job with our brand, if you will, in terms of getting the word out. So that said, real quick, I'll run through that. The format would be 2 hours, opening comments from the chair with a little bit of background about PCOB, then maybe comments from the mayor or councilors, Commonwealth's attorneys, chief of police. All that's to be determined on our role and mission. And the purpose of the opening comments is to both inform the community about our mission and present really a unified front of stakeholders regarding our mission, so that the impression that is presented is that the city is unified behind what we're trying to do. And that's why I wanted to include those other folks. I had some sort of prime the pump questions that we would throw out to the attendees. Are you familiar with PCOB? Are you aware of the history, how we came to be? Have you had occasion to interact with PCOB since its formation, and what recommendations do you have for us? And then a Q&A, I'm sorry, not a Q&A, a question comment period using our standard 3-minute window for folks to speak. And then whomever, would the questions directed to could respond, or other members of the panel, including the city leadership, could respond. And that we should have a moderator, a non-PCOB, non-city person, but someone with some degree of visibility in the community, maybe a local media person, a former city official, or someone with credibility and perceived neutrality to moderate the town hall. It would be live streamed on the city website, so that you could come by Zoom, you could come in person, but we would offer it in person at a location that's large enough to accommodate folks, including adequate parking. Would need to have AV technology available, and that it should be centrally located and accessible with public transportation. We'd want to do a real broad publicity campaign through all the local media outlets, print, over the air, social media, as well as maybe flyers into specific neighborhoods, put them on telephone poles, and post it on the city website announcing it, and then outreach to specific organizations and community. And these are the ones I just sort of brainstormed and came up with, but it's hardly a complete list. Public Housing Association of Residents, People's Coalition, Legal Aid Justice, Jefferson School AA Heritage Center, City of Promise, the Prolific Running Group, Sinbareras, some of the churches, Mount Zion First Baptist, 100 Black Men of Charlottesville, Charlottesville Chamber of Commerce, Downtown Merchants, PBA, Charlottesville Clerk's Office, Charlottesville Sheriff's Office, Seaville Pride, Charlottesville Commonwealth Attorney's Office, Piedmont Housing Alliance, and any others. We would ask the media to come and cover the event, and then we'd have a debrief ourselves after, based upon the record of the meeting, just to sort of brainstorm and see what we might want to implement from the suggestions. But I really see that a priority as secondary to introducing us to the community and getting our faces in front of our fellow citizens. So that's the proposal in a nutshell, subject to revision.
And so, as I said, thanks very much, Jeff. It's actually a very impressive document. I apologize for not circulating it, but I'll send it to the rest of the board. Okay. And then we can, I'll comment individually on it, and provide constructive criticism if any is merited.
Please, yes, it's welcomed.
And again, I think the idea, Jeff, was that it's the most likely time is probably right at the beginning of the year.
Yeah.
And not before then, because it'll take us that long to get something organized, to get buy-in from the various stakeholder groups.
Stakeholders, yeah.
And get a time when everybody can actually get together, and that probably has to be a month out at least. And I think, the question is, well, why is the town hall different from a meeting? Well, the town hall is different from a meeting because we're going to really do outreach, and we're going to really publicize it. Yeah. And we're going to make clear that our mission at the is to present ourselves and to explain, our business to the community, which is, overdue. It's about time.
Yeah, I did have one concern, and it's whether we would feel we need to wait for a new executive director to move forward with it, just because of the the volume of work and planning and publicity. I mean, that's all, unless we can enlist city staff to do that, and we probably need to talk to Ms. Marshall about that. I don't think it's something we ourselves could do sufficiently adequately, and just probably don't have the bandwidth to do it all. So I just put that out to the board.
That may move the calendar back, but
It may.
That's the story of our lives is postponing
Kick the
things,
can, kick the
moving
can
them
down the
back.
road. Yes.
It doesn't help to get it, when the new executive director walks in the door, we give him the plan and say, okay, go do it, that we can we'll have it ready. So thank you very much, Jeff.
Yes,
Okay.
happy to do it. Any questions?
Oh, yeah.
But when you've had a chance to look at it, Mr. Brown, Mr. Cooper, please get back to me if you have thoughts about it, or additions, deletions, whatever. As I said, it's a working document. It is not it's a first draft.
Sure. I think it's, just off the top of my head, I think that the Tonsil League might be an avenue of approach in addition to, they cross over that prolific space, but yeah, there's.
You know that better than I do, Mr. Brown, and I would defer to you on that. I was just brainstorming, sitting in front of my computer. So with my limited knowledge of certain organizations in town.
Sure. Yes, sir.
All right.
Okay.
And then now we have the perennial item 9, which is progress on operating procedures. Although I think this month is a little bit more hopeful than the previous months. Next year in Jerusalem kind of tone. If you remember, and again, this is for the attendees, we submitted the operating procedures initially to the city council in April. And what is happening just in the last several weeks is they are finally undergoing a legal review, and it's not due to any problem with the city attorney. It's, we've had a lot of stuff going on. But basically, Lisa and Pamela Barry have been working relentlessly to resolve issues, and the current draft that we sent you on Tuesday is, as I say, the latest draft. And, it was generated primarily by Lisa working over the weekend. And so it was a very impressive effort. But nothing in there right now is set in stone. And the plan is that we are going to have a couple of work sessions with Lisa, probably early next week. In the meantime, obviously, I only sent it out Tuesday. It's not, I don't expect you folks to have a lot of comments yet, but whenever you do, send them to me or Pam, and we can, consider them and incorporate them to the extent of our abilities. One thing you should remember is that this is intended to be not a new document, but a revision of the one that we put together in April. And the goal is, in intent, is to retain all of the powers given to the board in the ordinance. Very little substance has changed. That which is, unresolved yet is primarily procedural. We're working on that with Lisa. The plan is to have a final version. Once we get through with the legal review, I have recommended that we post it on our website so that stakeholders can comment on it. So hopefully that will be sometime next week. The final version, in order to be included in the agenda package for the city council meeting of December 5th, the deadline is November 22nd. So there is some time left to comment, but the sooner the better. I'd just like to say, I think we're very much on the final stretch. And, once we get this approved by the city council, we are an operating PCOB. Any questions?
Mr. Chair, yeah,
concerns?
I briefly sort of zoomed through it, and I guess I would address this to both you and Ms. O'Berry, but was there any, did Ms. Robinson, was there any major substantial revision that jumped out? Pam, do you want to would you comment on that?
Well, if I can just really quickly, if you note in that draft, there are notes which Ms. O'Berry put in saying, you know, this is new. Basically, it's for your attention, but it's this is new stuff. So the answer is there is new stuff in there.
Right, and I see that.
But we have worked enough, I think, with Lisa to share a certain commonality of outlook.
Okay.
So certainly, you know, we've still got a lot of talking to do, but this is a draft that is reviewable. It's worth your attention, and so if you can comment on it, you know, early next week, that would be great.
Okay.
And the only thing I would add, I would concur completely with what Mr. Mendez has said. But if you are short of time to review, if you everything that's notated for your attention would be the place that I would focus, because that would be something you haven't deliberated on or seen before. All of the other things, they may be in different positions or different locations, but that's all material that would have come from the original ops, the original and the ordinance and all of the powers therein. So just the things noted for your attention. If you are limited in time, that's where I would focus.
Good.
To provide feedback for Mr. Mendez.
Yeah, for various reasons, the organization is different from the little bits that Hansel divided everything into. I think Ms. Robertson wanted to put it into larger modules. That's why it's not numbered the same way. There are fewer sections than the 34 or 35 that there were last time. But much of the language is simply unchanged.
And many of the ops that you would have seen before were collapsed into the general operating procedures. So that's an op that I would spend some time with, just so you can see how many of the other original ops came together and are merged there. But that one is fairly consistent with the original language of the ops. They've just been combined into, they made sense to combine into one operating procedure.
Yeah, the strategy of how this is organized now, again, is that the structural issues are at the top, the general, you know, who's the board, when can we meet, what are our powers, then the executive director, then the hearing examiner, then receipt of complaints, then investigations, and then review requests, and investigation and review requests, and then the various kinds of hearings, and then we get down into things like the code of ethics and so on. So the idea is to try and make it, you know, sort of sequential, sensible, as in terms of what our powers are.
Thank you.
Yeah, so please, we'll keep you posted on developments, and if you have any concerns, please let us know. All right, so if there are no other concerns at this point, it is time for our second public comment period. Mr. Trail, is there any hands raised here?
Yes, Sarah Burke, you are on with the board. Can you hear us?
Yep.
Right, you have 3 minutes.
I'm just here to ask a couple of questions about that neutral evaluation report that Mr. Aguilar did. My understanding is that you all had adopted a resolution allowing him to conduct the evaluation, that he's done that, and then that the complainant has responded. But what I noticed in reading that, my first question is that Mr. Fogel's response mentions that the CPD has rejected all of Mr. Aguilar's recommendations. I haven't seen that response online, and I'm wondering if you all can clarify if they did respond, and if so, hopefully you can make that response available to the public. And then second, there were a lot of recommendations within that report made to City Council, to the City Manager's Office, to CPD, and to you all, the board itself. What, if any, intentions do you have as a board to follow up on whether any of those recommendations were taken into consideration, whether they're being addressed, and whether any concrete changes are going to be made based on that report, specifically outside of the CRB? And those are my two questions I'm hoping you all can address.
Okay, give me the first one again.
Oh yeah, whether CPD did respond, because I could only see the initial report and then Mr. Fogel's response. And I thought there had been an opportunity for CPD to respond. And it sounded like from Mr. Fogel's response that he's stating that the CPD has rejected all those recommendations. So I just wanted to be clear, if they did respond, what that response was and when that can be made available. And then the second one is about those recommendations and how you all plan to move forward with seeing if any of them are actually, any changes are made based on those recommendations.
There has been no official refusal by the CPD to consider there has been no rejection of the findings in the report. I'm not aware of any official response. In terms of the recommendations that are made in the report, quite frankly, I've been in operating procedure hell for the last month. And I haven't had a chance to consider what the board strategy might be on that.
Okay, thank you all.
If anyone else would like to speak, please press the raise hand icon. Or if you're joining us via telephone, you can press *9. You'll be given 3 minutes. Mr. Chair, we have no more hands raised at this time.
In that case, I will entertain a motion.
I make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
Before I was going to say, before I second this, Mr. Chair, if just to follow back up with Sarah, is there any type of way that, for our first question, is there any type of way we can figure out if CPD, just so we can stay transparent with the?
No, I think that's very good. I think, yeah, I definitely owe Ms. Burke a written response to that question, which will come after due deliberation.
And if we're talking about transparency, I want to go on record and say that I don't agree with.
Okay, that was really my own concern.
Well, there was a second question about this report itself, and I want to go on record. I don't know what the written record will say, but I have challenges with the report, so I'll go on record and say that. So any decisions that I would make would be based on the facts as I understand them, not necessarily a report in and of itself that may or may not align with the facts.
So certainly, again, if you want to, Ms. Brown, if you want to file a written addendum to this for the minutes of the meeting, which will outline your concerns, I can put it in the minutes.
Absolutely. I will definitely do that.
Okay.
Mr. Chair, would you include that in your response to Ms. Burke? Or should Mr. Brown communicate directly with her, as Mr. Cooper suggests?
I would prefer that it come through the chair
Okay,
for obvious reasons, but I'm going to be transparent. I'm going to communicate the concerns raised by Mr. Bellamy.
okay.
Okay, any other issues? Okay, there was a motion on the floor to adjourn. Mr. Brown,
Yes.
Mr. Cooper,
Yes.
Mr. Frazier,
Yes.
and the chair votes yes. So we are adjourned. Thank you all for coming.
Thank you. Good to see you.
All right.